Welcome to the Nearly Enlightened podcast, a high vibe toolbox designed to help you connect to your body, mind, and spirit. I'm your host, Gianna Giarusso, and I'm here to share tools, conversations, and insights to help you on your journey of self-discovery. This podcast is all about exploring what it means to live a conscious, connected, and nearly enlightened life, because the truth is, the answers aren't outside of ourselves. They're already within. Let's dive in. Today, I'm joined by Sheena Cesaroni, a U.S. Air Force veteran, psychology educated coach, podcast host, public speaker, and mother who rebuilt her life from the ground up. After surviving losing her mother at 15, surviving war, cult conditioning, PTSD, 2 failed marriages, and years of hyper-independence, Sheena reached a breaking point at 33 that forced her to completely rebuild her identity. Through 2 years of intensive therapy, psychology study, and deep personal work, she developed a lived understanding of healing, secure love, and personal transformation. Today, she helps women move beyond survival mode, rebuild their identity, and create strong, secure partnerships that support family, legacy, and long-term success through her work with the Secure Woman Method. Sheena, I'm so honored to have you here today. Welcome.
Thank you so much. That was an awesome edification. I appreciate it.
Isn't it so great hearing your bio from somebody else? It's like, yeah, fuck, I did that.
Hey, that's me.
Yeah, you put the hard work in, and like now this is the place to celebrate it.
For real. I love that. And actually, it's one thing that I love about aging is, you know what? After a lot of time, you finally have the accolades that build up to the person that you've become. So it took a lot of years to be able to say everything that you just said within my bio. That wasn't an overnight success type of deal. So here we are.
Yes, and this podcast is like the perfect place for that, because this has really been like my lived testament. Like this podcast is like, I think in May it'll be 5 years old. And so
Wow.
it's really been a testament to my journey. And I've had like a similar, I think we've talked about this offline before, but like I've had a similar journey. And if you haven't listened, I met Sheena and her husband Michael through their podcast, the Mindset Radio podcast. I was on their podcast in February. So if you haven't listened to that, go check it out. I'll link it in the show notes. That was like a great conversation. And that's where I really I fell in love with both of you.
Thank you very
And
much. It was a mutual feeling.
part of it was because of your relationship. Like, I just think it's so cool that you I think society today, there's a lot of man hate and like
Yes.
this talk around toxic masculinity and like all of this stuff. And I think we're like swinging the pendulum in the opposite direction. So it was so nice to see a couple that like works together and that loves each other. And it was just like so nice to be around.
Thank you very much. It's definitely a societal thing that we're going through as women and men because, for decades, there was a specific role for men and women. Women stayed in the household. Men, they went out to work, and then there was no talk of divorce. Women couldn't even drive. So over the last 20, 50 years, we've had different situations that have made women different. So we were able to start driving. We were able to start voting for who we thought would fit our bodies and minds and souls. And then throughout that transition, just like any transition in life, you're going to have people that are on one side of the spectrum and the other side of the spectrum and everyone in between. So feminism came into play throughout those times, which is an extreme, which created a woman that said, I don't need a man. I can do everything by myself. I'm the one. I can have babies without men. I can just go and get sperm. And what's the purpose of a man? So with that mentality, you saw a lot more divorces. You saw a lot more single families. You saw, even if I dare say, you saw a lot more women that became lesbians from that identity as well. So what happens is when things are too far to one side, either or, then you have to find groups of people that can come into the center and just kind of reevaluate what's happening and reestablish what really is healthy in relationships.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And I think now too, there's like, I'm going to be 35 in June and I'm in a place where I'm dating. I think part of the reason why I loved you so much was because I was like, oh my God, look at this couple. Like they're doing it. This is like my dream. It's possible to have like this healthy dynamic in somebody that you could completely trust. And I know it was a little bit of a journey for you as well. And like one of the things that I want to talk about is the empath narcissist relationship and why they're like fucking magnets for one another,
Yeah.
because that's like what resonated from some of your posts with me. Was I went through like a very similar thing where it was like an empath. I'm probably like on the hyper sensitive side of empathic tendencies, and I had a very tumultuous 15-year roller coaster of a relationship with the narcissist. And it's something that like came to a head last year and that I've been
Wow.
going through. But now I'm in this place where I'm healthy and like I want to have this healthy relationship with somebody who can hold their own, but also wants to come together. And that's really important for me because I have a great family unit and I just want to keep that growing. And I want to like pass those values down. So I love that you guys are a blended family that you're doing it.
Yeah. And you know what? You hit on a lot of very important parts there. And the real problem is high performing women. They're successful everywhere, and it's almost except for in love. And so they're dependent, but they're exhausted. And then it goes back to that thought process of I don't need a man, but they deeply want that partnership. So to touch on narcissism, that word has been a hot topic for about 5 years now. It's been really explored, and that comes from psychology. And we have to remember too that psychology is a science that is just now being recognized as legit. So, which is crazy to me because if you think about it, what controls our body? Our brain. So to me, what I would think is psychology and neurology, the study of the brain and how it works, should be the focus of everybody's life because then it makes sense as to why an empathetic woman that is highly sensitive would want to, or not want to, but would naturally gravitate to someone that identifies as a narcissist. And again, narcissists, there's a
The
spectrum. You
spectrum,
can
yeah.
have, yeah, some
You
that
can
are
have all the way from tendencies to full blown personality
full
disorder.
blown
So
crazy. I just actually had a call the other day from someone from the Secure Woman Method. She lives in Canada, and she said, I married my husband 3 years ago. He loved me in every way that I could possibly be wanted to love. And he gave me all the accolades that I wanted. He wanted to provide for me, wanted to start a family with me, told me everything I wanted to hear. And then as soon as she got pregnant, he completely changed. So he love bombed her. And then they're at the point now where she did have a child. It's a 1 year old baby. But now she said that when he comes home from work, he's told her that she's not allowed to ask him how his day was. And as long as she doesn't talk to him, that their life will be okay. And so she's crying to me saying, what the heck happened? Like, this man was everything in the first year. He did everything right. He spent all this time with me. We cooked together, we cleaned together, we planned our life. And as soon as she had his child, that's when the true narcissism came out, where he became controlling, not loving, not empathetic at all. But she, because she is an empath, she wants to still fix him. She still thinks that she can get back to square one where he said everything that she wanted to hear. And she still believes deep down in her heart that that was real. And unfortunately, it's not. For some people, it is a manipulative tool that they use to get what they want. So I truly believe in the power of energy. We are a physical body, but we're much more than that. So it makes sense that a narcissist is somewhat like a vampire, and they latch on to people that have that God-given light that are basically like a battery. Like you and I, we're batteries to the people that we run into because we are able to see the positive. We're able to see, okay, that person may be acting like X, Y, and Z because they went through this type of trauma or this or that. And so we're forgiving and we give them chances, and ultimately we want to save them and make them, better. But it doesn't happen. So
Yes,
it's
and that's a tough lesson for two projectors.
it
People have
absolutely.
to people have to be on their own journey, and like you can hold space for it, but you can't be in love with people's potential. And sometimes like the extreme empath really can drum that up in their own mind because they do see the power of change. And if you're in this work, you see people make the choice to do that and become better every single day. So you know that it's in everyone to do that, but that
Yes.
individual has to want that journey. And like you can't do that for somebody.
Right. You can't. They have to want to do it for themselves. And there's a difference between taking the time to teach somebody how to love you and being controlling yourself. And this is something that even I'm learning every day. I think that's what's beautiful about the brain is we're always learning new things. But but there's also certain people that have mental conditions in which no matter what, if they don't want to change and do the work, it's not going to happen. So it's really not about finding the right man. It's about becoming the version of you that can sustain that right relationship because trauma creates hyper independence and then healing creates interdependence. So maybe you're struggling with a little bit of trauma that you don't realize. So you've created that hyper independence. But as you've started to heal, you were able to see that that person that you invested 15 years of your life with is not the person that's healed that will create your interdependence. So it's crazy. Love is crazy.
Yeah, and I mean sometimes you can even see it in friendships. Like I've gone through that too where like again you just see people's potential and they can be like not the best people and make choices to like hurt others and you're like, "Oh, well that was a mistake." And like you could be super forgiving and sometimes you just like have to realize like, "Oh, these are patterns. These are not things that like are going to change unless they want to. And sometimes you just have to like remove yourself. And I think that goes towards like my next question are what are some of these patterns that you've started to notice repeating in your relationships or behaviors before you started to get set on your healing journey?
Yeah, that's a huge one too, breaking a pattern. So you have to stop chasing emotionally unavailable men, which is hard to know at first what that type of person man or that man is, but that's where the research comes in. If you see yourself overgiving and then you become resentful from that, that's another pattern that is showing yourself, okay, this is on you. This is something you're doing because you're searching for to be loved by overgiving. And then losing identity in the relationship. So if you find yourself that you're kind of like you wake up one day and you're like, who am I? Like, what is my purpose? I've given this person everything. So breaking patterns it's the most practical and the most powerful in order for a secure woman to stop chasing. In order for them to do that, they have to observe, they have to choose, and they have to set certain standards in that relationship.
What was the moment in your journey that you realized the problem wasn't just like the circumstances, but they were the patterns that had been ingrained?
That's a really good question. It took really deep therapy for me to understand why I was making the decisions I was. So it also helped me get from that victim, like you feel like the victim, so that's your story, so that's your excuse as to why you did XYZ, which is all true. But when you take accountability for that, that's when the change shifts. That's when you go from being a victim to a secure woman because you're like, okay, wait a minute. Yes, I in the past picked X, Y, and Z, which I didn't have a good outcome. So am I going to repeat that or am I going to break that cycle?
Yeah, and that can be like the hardest work. I talk about it on this podcast all the time. The brain rewiring and just even like the first step becoming aware, like, oh, this is a pattern. This is something that's programmed that like might not even be true.
Yes, yeah. So I believe a lot in the subconscious mind and also the conscious mind. So meaning the conscious mind is okay, right now you and I were in our conscious mind, we know what we're doing, but the subconscious mind is like a part of the brain that is driving us to do other things without us realizing it. So that takes a lot of control, self-control, and nervous system and identity building, emotional regulation versus reacting, why you have anxious and avoidant patterns and when are they happening, and how, that's when you can also look at yourself and you're saying, you're confusing chemistry with compatibility. So those are all things that you have to be just self-aware. You have to be really aware of yourself in order to even be in another relationship.
So, when we're talking about these patterns of hyper independence, what do they look like? Because I feel like the hyper independent woman almost doesn't even know that she's hyper independent until it's brought to your attention, like, oh, this is a trauma response. I know I had that experience in I guess it was 2020. I had newly moved in with my now ex boyfriend, but I was that way and I didn't realize it until I had this experience. It was when we first moved in together. I cut my foot from like the whole heel of my foot completely open, like definitely needed stitches. We were in Aspen, so we were like too far away from a hospital. So just kind of like patched it up myself, but that experience made me have to lean on him in a way that I hadn't throughout our whole relationship, and he
Yeah.
loved it to the point where it
Oh.
became a conversation. Was like, I know you're hurt, I'm really sorry, I don't want you to be in pain, but this has actually been nice because like you let me do things for you. And that was the first experience that I had of like, oh wait a minute.
Yeah, that's interesting, especially because you said that he is narcissistic. So,
Well, two different people, but yeah.
oh yeah, okay. So that just did show you that you're protecting yourself for your own reasons, and that's probably related to any type of trauma or not feeling like you could trust somebody, but you could definitely trust yourself. So that's a good point because security is what allows polarity to actually thrive. So if you're in fight or flight mode, you're going to be protecting yourself more than allowing somebody to take care of you. And it all boils down to that emotional safety. The masculine energy provides direction and the feminine energy brings connection, but neither of those work unless there's emotional safety. And you have to be open to receive that emotional safety for him to come in. And it wasn't until you had physical pain that you were able to let him in. So it sometimes it takes certain circumstances like that in order for you to see that you're holding back because when I wake up in the morning, I think I'm okay. I think I've got my stuff together, but maybe there's a part of me that holds back even in my marriage. And until my husband comes and says, XYZ makes me feel a certain way, or I loved that we were able to do this, which we normally don't, because of it's communication. It's being vulnerable.
And both being willing to do that hard work together. For
Definitely.
you, what was that realization of this hyper independence pattern, and how did you work to break that?
So that started from, I've been hyper independent for a very, very long time. So when I was a child, I went through sexual abuse. So my trust for men, it stopped at a very young age. And I repeated a lot of patterns where I wanted to trust a man, but throughout my life, I just pull back. So I have two failed marriages. The first one, I was 18 years old and I had two beautiful children. My daughter, she's 23 years old, Angelina, my son, Caden, he's 21 years old. But with that relationship, even being so young, I was 18. By the time I was 19, I had my daughter. By the time I was 20, I was pregnant with my son, and I had him at 21. My husband at the time, he didn't see the same things that I saw. Like, I wanted to purchase a house. I wanted stability. I was in the medical field. I was a licensed nursing assistant, but I wanted to go to college for more. I wanted to go, start it as a nurse, and then I wanted to become a doctor. And for him, success looked different and providing for family looked different. And so for me, my hyper independence said, okay, well, if you don't want to be the man of this family, then I'm going to join the Air Force and I'm going to provide my children with the life that I deem fit. And after it's been 25 years, I've had time to reevaluate what I did. If I had allowed myself to be vulnerable and say, listen, maybe you're going to be the stay-at-home dad and raise our children while I am out learning because I enjoy school and education and I want to do these certain things. Let's make this work for our children. Because what hindsight is you don't realize how detrimental divorce is on your children. Adults, we're able to move forward. Shame on us, little tap on the hand, but our children are the ones that suffer the most. So, with that being said, I learned about myself that I was just hyper independent. And instead of giving him a chance or instead of going through a way to fix that solution, instead of just saying, see ya, I could have saved a lot of trauma in that area. So, and there's different examples all throughout your life that will come out where you realize, I mean, hindsight's just amazing, right? I wish we could have foresight like that, but we don't.
Life would look a lot different.
Oh my gosh, it would be incredible.
But like also those sometimes those what we deem as failures and mistakes like get us on the path or like put us to where we are. And like if you didn't go through that experience, like you wouldn't be with Michael and you wouldn't be doing like all the amazing things that you guys are doing together. And like the secure woman method might not be a thing.
No, definitely it wouldn't have been. I mean, that is also the beauty of these lessons in life. And it's also the beauty of being a secure woman. So I was hyper independent with problems, but at the end of the day, I f- feel I was still strong enough to say I want more from myself and my children, and I went out and did it. I didn't do it the right way, but like you said, I would have never made those choices throughout life, which have led me to the secure woman that I am today. And I finally did find a man that is emotionally intelligent and who is a provider and who protects. But it took a lot of frogs in order to understand that not all men harbor those types of traits. And until your body knows that you're in an emotionally safe relationship, you're going to be hyper independent
And repeating those
and repeating.
patterns because you're on that nervous system roller coaster. And some of the things that we talk about that are very aligned is nervous system regulation. So where
Yeah.
does that come into play with the secure woman method?
Well, I mean, it's pretty much number one. If your nervous system is wired for chaos, peace will feel boring and you'll sabotage it. It's just the way of it. I don't think any one person actually wants to sabotage a good thing. But again, this leads back to your brain and your subconscious mind. If you don't have control over your nervous system, it's going to affect your identity. And that emotional regulation versus reacting to a situation, like I told you in the beginning, my emotional regulation was off. So I just said peace and joined the Air Force. And so I was reacting instead of being intelligent with the situation. And so the nervous system is number one, I would say, especially if you're trying to become that secure woman.
It's something that you've actually talked about in one of your recent posts that really stood out to me was the idea that toxic partners don't create the wound, they activate the wound that already exists. And that one kind of like, that one hit me. I was like, oh, that one was for me.
Yeah, and that, that's for a lot of us. That was for me too. A lot of things that I post, it's because I have maybe once felt that way. And from that feeling, I was able to look at myself and fix it. So it's amazing how it happens like that. It's not just a mindset, it's identity work, it's nervous system work, it's behavioral standards all combined in order to change who you are. So that post, it's just another reminder of, hey, like we need to evaluate how we're feeling about this. Am I strong in this area, or can I do something more that will make me feel complete?
What are some of the nervous system regulation tools that you use that have worked for you or that you might suggest for others?
Okay, so breath work is a huge thing. I live with anxiety. It just is a part of me. I'm hyper aware of it. I'm high functioning anxiety. And
Same
I
here
also
amongst,
refuse
and
to take
I feel like
prescribed
it's part
medication.
of the projector kind of, it's part of the projector package. And I think it's
Yeah.
because we are so energy sensitive.
Yes, because when you take those, and I can say this because I normally try things before I knock them. And when I was in the military, I did eventually try some different medications, which, you can feel the difference on your body, whether it's positive or negative. But the majority of these medications numb you to the problem. So you're just putting a band-aid over what the true root of the cause is. So you have to allow your body to feel what it's feeling. So you can say, okay, wait, whoa, I just got triggered by him saying that, or by my kids kicking the soccer ball across my living room. Like, what is it that's causing that? And then you can reevaluate. But breath work, yoga, I love I love vibrations and frequencies. So I use YouTube a lot for different hertz, and I put my headphones on and I'm able to disconnect from my body in moments where I need that system regulation. And it's beautiful, but also trees. I feel like hiking is a huge thing. The ocean is a must for me. I find that in Rhode Island, I get extreme seasonal depression because I was born in California on the ocean with the sun. So for me, I know that that's if I'm out of it, it's because I need the earth, I need the sun, I need the sea salt, I need fresh air. So
I know.
there's so many things, but those are my go-tos.
Yes. And I talk about it on this podcast all the time. It's like finding the tools that work for you, and what work for me might not work for you, and what work for you might not work for the other person. But this is like where to start.
Yes, you have to start somewhere.
Yes. And that. And I think starting to become aware of the patterns, that's really the hardest part. And then once you take the steps, then everything starts to become easier. It's a little bit, it kind of snowballs into one another. So you make the decision to recognize the patterns. Then you
Mhm.
start recognizing the patterns. And it's like, okay, now that I'm recognizing the patterns, like, how can I change instead of reacting? How can I change it so that I'm responding from a better place?
Yeah. And we also have to remember to give ourselves grace because just because you immediately identify with something that's triggering you, or you're able to identify a problem that needs to be, hi, sweetheart, a problem that needs to be fixed, it doesn't mean you're able to change your habit or your pattern overnight. Some people can, and they are just incredible. But sometimes you'll see that reoccurring toxic part of you come up again and again and again. And unless you're with a partner that is able to see that, okay, this is where your trauma lies, and maybe you're lashing out for something that I didn't actually do or I did do and it hurts you, you have to have a stable and a secure man in order to grow in those areas too, because forgiveness is the name of the game. Nobody's perfect.
Yes, and that's huge. It's really, I think it's forgiveness is a really hard human thing that we go through, both self forgiveness and forgiveness of others, because there's always that little part of you that's like, oh, but remember when?
Yes, yes, definitely. That's our human flaw.
So, how do you know when you're reacting from a wounded place versus like a secure place?
For me, it's easier to see now that I've put years into actually understanding these different parts. So is it if I'm triggered, I'll react in a way that I know I could have handled differently.
You know, immediately, as soon as it
No,
comes out, you're
immediately.
like, oh,
Why? Like, it's almost like I can feel my my energy bubbling up, and then I just projectile vomit whatever I'm thinking versus taking a deep breath, counting to three, and then actually verbalizing and communicating what I mean, because that's where a lot of problems can happen too. If you are reactive, you can say some things you can't take back. And it's unfortunate, even if it's true, but it can be damaging.
yes, that's so true. How or what are some of the daily practices that have helped you rebuild trust in yourself?
Being consistent.
That's a hard one for a lot of
That
people.
that's a really hard one. And I'm actually really grateful for my husband Michael on this one because we both believe in consistency. So we were able to both hold each other to that accountability. And having an accountability partner is, you know, being hyper independent is great all day long, but when you need somebody to say, hey, you're actually not doing what you said you're going to do, that is a game changer. So for Michael and I, when we first met, he was 300 pounds and I had just gotten out of a narcissistic relationship myself that was terrible. So between the two of us, the things he had gone through and things I had gone through, going to the gym every single day. Sometimes we went to the gym 2, 3 times a day, but it created a consistency in our lifestyle that not only benefited our health, it strengthened our brains and it strengthened our relationship and communication. So just being consistent in that one area was a game changer. And then for us, social media, we sat down on a bench and we said, listen, let's make a game plan for 5 years. Let's be consistent with social media for 5 years. If it doesn't work at the end of the 5 years, we'll wash our hands of it. We tried as long as we're consistent. And so that's one thing that I'm very proud of both of us is even on the days where I just wanted to curl up in a ball and drink hot chocolate and pretend like, the world didn't exist. I still had to get up and be accountable and do what I said that I was going to do. And same with Michael. If he's human too. He has those days. he drags himself to the computer or to the phone and he makes that content. So consistency has to be a number one thing too.
Yes, and there was also another recent post that you put up that I really loved about how in a relationship one person has to be the brakes, because if you're just constantly like zooming through life, first of all, the car is going to crash without brakes, and
Yes.
sometimes you need to stop and look around and celebrate where you're at right now. And I thought that that was so profound, because I think when you are an ambitious person and you have these goals set for yourself, it could be easy to lose sight of that and just keep pushing through without like stopping and celebrating. So I think that having that symbiotic relationship with someone who's secure and safe and healthy, you end up accomplishing so much more than you would when you were trying to do it all on your own.
Absolutely, because when you're in a relationship that's symbiotic, then you're technically going with the flow of the water, and that's the least resistance. If you're playing tug of war with somebody, then you're going a little inch here, going a little inch there, you're just wasting time. But you have to definitely both be on the same page in order to grow, and it's just yeah, you definitely both have to be ready to be secure for each other.
Yes. And how did you know that? So, like, after all of the relationships that didn't work out and these patterns that kept showing up for you, like, how did you know that this one was the one where you could like rest in and be safe and secure?
A lot of it came from like I said in the beginning, you have to be able to identify what your problems are. And so once you know what your issues are, then you're better able to see what you want in a man as well. So that's eliminating it's you don't confuse chemistry with compatibility anymore once you've gotten to that nervous system regulation and you've been able to identify what your own anxious and avoidant patterns happen to be. So when I met Michael, I was able to say he's different from the mistakes I've made. He has certain characteristics that are stronger than any man that I've met. So it definitely is about being self-aware, but also being very, very aware of what you need in a relationship with a man. What kind of man do you need to feel that most love from? And it just takes time. It takes time and energy.
So tell us a little bit more about the Secure Woman Method. Like, I know it's an online course, but tell us what it is, how it will help, all the good benefits. Because you've often said that healing isn't about fixing the other person, it's about rewiring what you believe that you deserve. And I think that that is an important distinction to make, because a lot of us do are like, oh, well, that person is showing up that way, and that's why I am the way that I am. But it especially in relationship, whether it's friendship or romantic, it just doesn't fucking work that way.
Yeah. Well, you're right. It doesn't. So, what makes my method different is, and how I decide which people to work with is I want to be clear that this isn't just mindset. It's you have to do identity work. You have to do nervous system work, and it you have to look at your behavioral standards and all combined into one in order to move forward. Otherwise, if you're not there, then you're just going to go two steps forward, two steps back, and it's going to be that push pull. And we don't just talk about healing, we build women into secure partners. So that really is focusing not on the man at this point, it's focusing on yourself. It's figuring out what you love, and once you know that and how you want to be loved, then the man will make more sense when he comes into the picture. So it's really for women that are tired of repeating the same relationship patterns and they're really ready to actually do the work. And those are the women that I want to work with, because like I said, nobody's perfect. And I've had lots of time to get to this point. So this is for women who are just done surviving and they're ready to build that real partnership that will bring you to an elevated level.
What would you say to the woman who is that person that's like exhausted from surviving? What would you say to her?
I would say, sister, it is time to start thriving. Our lives are so precious. Our lives are so short. My mom passed away when she was 36 years old, and she already had four children. And I was 15 at the time, and I actually thought to myself, well, at least she lived a long life, not knowing that 36 was such a beautifully young age with so much more time to love and live. So when you're at that point, and she was at that point of exhaustion that she couldn't fight. She had pneumonia for 2 weeks and died. She just could not physically or mentally push through this through pneumonia. So I say if you want to live the rest of your life to the fullest, you have to make that decision right now, and there's going to be good days, there's going to be bad days, but there's going to be more good days than bad, and life is worth living.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
what does being a secure woman mean to you today?
It means to me, that's a really good question.
It's kind of a loaded one.
It is very loaded because it's ever changing, it's ever evolving. But the most important part, I would say, it's being in a relationship where you feel both peaceful and powerful. Like that's balance to me. I'm not shrinking to feel like a stay-at-home mom that's not appreciated. I'm not trying to be more masculine than my husband, so my ego's not, well, if he can do it, I can do it, and I could do it better. It's just being peaceful and powerful and being totally okay and happy with that.
And that's really important too, because you kind of sway to this side that's so masculine. And in a relationship, you can see how, if you're a woman in relationship with a man, like that would be completely emasculating.
Oh yeah, for sure. It definitely is, especially coming from hyperdependence. This is a secure woman from my perspective now is a learned trait. This is something that I had to teach myself from understanding who I am and what I want. Do I want to be more masculine? Absolutely not. I want to be in my soft girl era. Like I want to just be peaceful and powerful and go to yoga and play with my kids and cook good food. Like who wants to struggle? So if you're done struggling and you just literally want to thrive, it's available.
Yes, amazing. So if somebody is like, yes, this work resonated with me, she's talking to me, where can they find you? Where can they apply or just learn more about you or follow you on your socials?
Well, I'm definitely available on every social platform. Instagram, I'm more active with. So it's Sheena Cesaroni. You can find me there. Also, I have TikTok, which is Sheology Psychology. I started that page that hits kind of all types of topics. I'm more heavy on narcissistic information on my TikTok than any of the platforms. Facebook, I have just started a group on there. You can reach me there. But really, just send me a DM and we can go from there. I usually like to jump on a one-on-one call with somebody just to see where they are in life and if they actually are ready to commit. And I'm a big talker, so if you do come and expect to have a nice conversation, we need at least an hour.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. That's like when you launched this, I was like, this is the most projector thing anyone could do as a projector. Like, yes, this is what you should be doing. Absolutely. I think
Thank
I
you.
said it to you on your podcast. I don't know if we were recording at the time or not, but you and your husband need more, just like the two of you podcasts, because like
Yeah.
your magic is so real. And I just think it's amazing. You talk about how you built, or you helped build alongside him his company from literally nothing to a $3 million company. And I love you guys. I admire you guys.
Thank you so much. And we love and enjoy every conversation we have with you. And we are working on doing just a couples podcast on YouTube. So we just need to narrow it down because there's so many topics that we want to talk about. It's hard to find just something to niche down. So we're getting there.
Oh, I love that. I love that for you guys, especially like you have the generator projector
Yeah.
duality and it's just magic.
Thank you, love.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for being here today and sharing your story and your wisdom with us. This conversation has been such a great reminder that healing isn't about becoming someone new. It's about coming home to yourself and building the life that really feels like safe to live in. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate your time and energy.
You're welcome. You too. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of the Nearly Enlightened podcast. If this conversation resonated with you, I would love it if you shared it, left a review, or reach out to me and let me know your thoughts. And if you're looking for more ways to deepen your connection to body, mind, and spirit, check out my Meditate to Elevate guided meditation portal or visit nearlyenlightened.com for more resources. Until next time, stay curious, stay connected, and remember, the answers already lie within.